You know, I've never been the biggest SpongeBob SquarePants fan, you know, probably ever. I mean, I've watched a few things here and there. I've kind of seen the first movie and such, but I've just never really been a fan. And I think it's just because of the fact that the way this character is portrayed is, well, in my opinion, annoying. I mean, I was born, and let's be honest, not everybody born in my time frame or around the time I was hates SpongeBob. Some like it, some enjoy it. It's just not for me. I mean, look, I'll admit there are some funny episodes, some funny moments and stuff. And, there are things to kind of get behind. Like, I look at the fact that no matter how much you want to portray or imply, officially, non-officially, can I, whatever, or canon or fanon as they call it, that SpongeBob is, GAY, and that kind of explains why he's always so close with, Patrick, for whatever that matters. I will admit there are some things to get behind on the show from a story character perspective. And one of them for me personally is him and Sandy. And I'm not alone in that. Obviously, and you want an obvious example, of that to the up 10th degree. Just look up on Google, just look up fanfiction.net, look at DeviantArt, everywhere you can think of that allows you to upload and post and do all that kind of stuff, and you will see a majority of people support those two getting together. So you can only imagine when they hear things officially, non-officially, canon, fanon, whatever, trying to imply that SpongeBob is basically more favorable towards his own gender, whatever that may be in people's minds too. But, like I said, despite, it having some, some funny moments here and there and some okay episodes and everything, it just never was appealing to me. And again, I think it's just because of his, just because of the way he was designed, to be sort of a, I guess you could say sort of a nuisance. I mean, honestly, I think, this is just my opinion, I think Nickelodeon and the original guy behind the creation of SpongeBob, who has, I think, passed on, so God rest his soul, I think, they didn't really have, SpongeBob sketched into the future plans, for the next several years. They were probably looking at SpongeBob as being basically, a show that they could have on for maybe 5-6 years, and then that's it. And then they could just ride off into the sunset, just like they did with Wild Thornberries, just like they did with Rugrats for a time, and so on. They had their moment, they gave them theatrical movies, and then they rode off into the sunset with them. Now, Rugrats obviously has made a comeback. They're trying to do more with it in the realm of CGI animation, and it sounds like we're going to get a Baby Geniuses version of Rugrats, live action wise, apparently on the big screen. But again, like I said, at least they gave it time to kind of settle down, have time to be missed, have time to basically become nostalgic. Now, true, they did more with the characters by at least evolving them. That's one thing the people behind that show understood is, hey, if we're going to keep these characters alive, we need to evolve them, and thankfully that's what they did with All Grown Up. But, getting back to SpongeBob, though, that is one thing you never really saw that much here. And again, I can understand that, that was the intention But I think the reason it was the intention is because SpongeBob falls into a certain category. And that category is everything that happens is non-canon, period. Everything that's happened, from the movies to the specials to the episodes themselves, are non-canon stories. There is no connection. There might be a reference here and there, or there might be a connection because a certain character is showing back up, but most of the time, all the stories are non-canon. They have no continuity whatsoever. And a prime example of this is recently when Doug Walker did another Dark Toon. I think it's his third or fourth one back doing it. And he had the YouTuber Matt, known as Phantom Strider, on there. And they were reviewing an episode, which I guess it's called Krabby Zombies or something like that. But basically they call Night of the Living Dead Meat or something like that. And the plot was basically you had this rotten hamburger meat that was being used accidentally in making the Krabby Patties, and anybody that ate it turned into an undead burger zombie or Krabby Patty zombie or something, to where instead of them eating they wanted you to eat them, so you could be just like them or something like that. And the reason this is a prime example of being non-canon is not just because of the fact that things do go back to the status quo momentarily, because again, everybody reverts once again back into zombies, or changes back into zombies again. It's not just the ending and even the undoing of the ending where people get returned to normal, then unreturned to normal and all that proves it's non-canon. But you have some non-important characters, like background characters, as zombies, having themselves eaten by people like Patrick, he's Patrick, so what are you going to do? And he gets turned into a zombie as a result. But you also have these zombified people of Bikini Bottom. Basically, like there's one scene in this cartoon where one person is just zombified into what looks like just a patty, just like a regular burger, but with legs, and it's somebody, we don't know who it is. But basically they say, "Eat me," and then they just toss the burger form, or the patty form, into the mail carrier's, I guess it's the mail carrier's mouth, and to become a two-headed zombie. And it's like, okay, you have to wonder what that guy's going to think if he walks home after things do get returned to normal, sees the bottom half of himself on the ground, thinking, wait a minute, is that my part? Is that part of me? But I'm whole. It's like, again, it's stuff like that, especially, like I said, the way they kind of undo the reverting back to normal, they undo it at the end, that just, proves that everything in SpongeBob is, obviously is not to be taken seriously, and is very non-canon and uncontinuity-wise. It's no continuity, period. And I understand some people might say, oh, there is continuity, there is canonness to it, and again, like I said earlier, there are some episodes and elements that get brought back that have a connection. I'm not denying that. But the reason SpongeBob, falls into that category, the reason being is because Nickelodeon, like I said, didn't really have, in my opinion, intentions to keep the character going for as long as they have. Their intentions were, we'll keep him going for as long as he can because he's just another show and that's it. He was going to fall in line, as I mentioned earlier, with the likes of the original Rugrats, the original Wild Thornberrys, Rocket Power, you name it. But something just clicked. And he took off, and he has become basically Nickelodeon's equivalent, believe it or not, to that of Bugs Bunny, to that of Mickey Mouse, and so on. He's become their mascot. And, that's why he's been around, he's been kept around and has had new shows, new movies, spin-offs, and all that. Given to him right and left. That is why for a time, thankfully they toned this down. Maybe not as much, but thankfully they toned it down. That's why for a time people would look at Nickelodeon and be like, it's just the SpongeBob network. Or they look at Nicktoons and be like, it's just the SpongeBob network. Because almost every hour, back to 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 back, would be nothing but SpongeBob. Nothing but SpongeBob. Back to back to back to back to back to back to back. And it's like, enough already. We get it. He's your mascot. He's your gold mine, if you will. He's your money grabber. We get it. And it just, got to a point that it became annoying that thankfully when Nickelodeon saw the viewership numbers for their, network, or Viacom saw the viewership numbers on Nickelodeon going down and Nicktoons going down, they're like, hey, cut, and they probably saw the issue of that reasoning. They're probably like, hey, cut back on the SpongeBob deal. Cut back on it, don't do it anymore. No more SpongeBob, on a marathon basis. I mean, look at the fact of what Teen Titans and Gumball have done to Cartoon Network. Thankfully, they're cutting down on that, and I'm sure David Zaslav will make sure of it. But it's like, seriously, if you're going to dedicate one network or one channel to nothing but one show, take a page out of Pluto TV and just give them their own channel. That's it. I'm just saying. But if there is one thing, like I said, I could appreciate about SpongeBob is it's non-canon. It does not have any connection continuity-wise, with a few exceptions here and there, and that's it. And even though I've never been the biggest SpongeBob fan, and there are some things to get behind, like I said, the whole SpongeBob Sandy deal. At least I can appreciate that if I was to have gotten invested in it back when it first came out, and still been a fan of it up to this day, which I have not been, which in my opinion, my sole opinion, is a good thing because, this is just nonsensical, like, why is this still a thing kind of deal, nonsense. But if I was somebody that would have gotten into it and stayed with it, for as long as it's been around, like I said, the one thing I can appreciate about it that would keep me around is I don't have to worry about, okay, what's going to happen in the next episode? What's going to happen here? What about this character? What about that character? Because I know, because I would know throughout the years that everything is non-canon. There is no connection, period. There is no connection, period. And that's one thing I think anybody, whether you are a fan of SpongeBob, been a fan since the beginning, just becoming a fan, whatever, that you can actually, or even never been a fan like me, you've never really been a fan. If there's one thing about the SpongeBob, shows and all that you can appreciate, is that they all are non-canon. They don't have continuity. So thank God for that. Again, like I said, even though there are some things you would like to get behind, thankfully there are nothing, or not nothing, but thankfully there is nothing about any of it that you had to be curious about, oh, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen here and all that? Because there's no connection. They're just like the Looney Tunes, with the Looney Tunes shorts and all that. It's just, it happened, that's it, next episode, next cartoon. So, yeah, like I said, I've never been the biggest SpongeBob fan, and in my personal opinion, I'm thankful for that. I'm happy about that, even though I can respect that it's been around for a while. It has something about it that's kept it around. And again, I can respect that, even though I've never been the biggest fan, even though there are things I could get behind and actually, tune in for if they actually made it happen. I mean, let's be honest, when they tease SpongeBob and Sandy getting married, and we find out it's a play, it's like, yeah, that got my attention because that is one thing I can't get behind. Because if I was to finally decide to take this in a different direction and make it a little continuity based, putting them together hopefully would basically, mature SpongeBob to a point that he's like, oh, what the heck have I been doing? Why have I been acting this way? But again, it's just one of those situations to where it's, even though I've never been the biggest fan, and never will be, in my opinion, that's a good thing for me. There are things like that you can get behind and support and probably tune in to see if they would actually finally do it. But anyway, though, guys, I just wanted to come on here and get that off my chest because, it's just, to me, I get, like I said, there is something there that's kept it going for some time, but it's like, seriously, how much longer are you going to keep this up without some kind of without some kind of finale? Like how, are you planning to just go on forever and ever and ever because it falls into the same category as Looney Tunes? I wouldn't. I'd want to try to find a finale. I would. I mean, if there's one thing I could say about The Simpsons is, yeah, they should have, had their finale long ago and everything and moved on, but if they're making money, that's fine. But I think what makes The Simpsons different is the fact that they do have a bit of continuity. They have continuity that has a connection to previous seasons, especially if one character from the past comes back and so on. But, but long story short, like I said, it's just never been really for me, with a few things here and there that, like I said, that have been funny and I could get behind, and I know I'm not the only one. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are. What are your thoughts on SpongeBob basically being a show that's non-canon, doesn't have any connection with it itself whatsoever, with a few exceptions here and there? Do you think that's why it's been kept around for as long as it has, because it falls into that category of being like Looney Tunes? Where every short is basically non-connection, non-canon and all that? What are your thoughts? Let me know down below in the comments, as well as in the live chat during the premiere. Like the video. Super chats, super stickers are open during the premiere in the live chat, and super thanks afterwards. Also check me out at Venmo at Brian-Walmer-2 and at Cash App at BWRoses98. Also check me out at VENMO at BWRoses for content you can't get anywhere else. Also check me out at Patreon at BWRoses for the $1 or $3 tier. Also check out my BWRoses discussion podcast, where you can find me on all your favorite audio podcast locations except for Pandora. Also check me out at deviantart.com/BVW1979. And really, guys, that's about it. But again, let me know what your thoughts are. Again, like I mentioned earlier, I had to get this off my chest because, to me, it's just one of those things to where, unless you want to finally decide to make it canon to each other, have episodes be canon, have a continuity connection, this is something that's just never been appealing. It's just never been appealing to me. And the only thing I can respect out of it is at least, it understands that it understands that it shouldn't take itself too seriously, and that it shouldn't be canonized or continuity-wise or anything if it's going to have stories like what, Dark Walker and Fathom Strider talked about in the recent Dark Toons. But again, guys, let me know what your thoughts are down below. Comment if you like. And until next time, I am out. But again, let me know what your thoughts are. Love to hear from each and every one of you on that. And I'm out.